The room is tight, late night tight, smoke hanging low, glasses half full, men packed around a back room table like they're guarding oxygen. A folded napkin sits dead center on the felt, weighted down by a coin so it won't move when the door swings. Nobody touches it, nobody breathes too loud, because the napkin isn't just paper, it's a message left at the table, and everybody in that room knows whose table gets respected. A chair scrapes, one slow inch, and the sound feels like a gunshot without the gun. A hand reaches in, not trembling, just careful, and slides the napkin closer with two fingers like it might burn skin. One line is written across it, short, clean, final. The kind of line that doesn't ask a question because it already decided the answer. Some stories claim you could see the change happen in real time, the way shoulders stiffened, the way eyes stopped wandering, the way a man holding a glass forgot to drink. One line, whole room rewritten. "Read it," someone says, low. "Don't," another voice answers, even lower. Freeze it there, the napkin, the coin, the table, the silence that suddenly has weight. 3 weeks earlier, the same kind of table sat in a different room, brighter, louder, more public, where money talked with laughter instead of whispers. A bottle hits the center with a dull thud, cards slap wood, and a man counts out bills without counting them twice. Harlem has a rhythm to it, and the rhythm is always numbers. How many eyes in the doorway, how many favors owed, how many nights until police heat turns into police pressure. You need to understand, in that world, the table isn't furniture, it's jurisdiction. It's where deals breathe and where disrespect gets measured. If you sit at the wrong table, you don't just risk losing money, you risk losing your name. That's why the small things mattered. A man keeping his coat on indoors, a glance held 2 seconds too long, a chair pulled out without being offered, tiny gestures, sharp as razors, all orbiting the same object, the table. And when the table got quiet, it meant somebody powerful had stepped into the room without stepping into the room. That night, a bartender in a white shirt wipes the same spot on the counter 3 times, eyes flicking to the back door like he's waiting for a storm. 2 men enter, not smiling, not rushing, just placing themselves in positions that make the exit feel far away. One of them taps the table once with a knuckle, not a knock, a signal. "He's making moves," a voice says. "Everybody makes moves," another voice replies. "Not like this." The pressure wasn't just rivals, it was the city itself. Sirens passing outside, newspapers stacking up, a feeling that the walls had ears. You'd hear rumors in the daylight and feel consequences at night. Reportedly, when the heat rose, people didn't stop doing business, they changed how they did it. Less talking, more looks, more notes passed hand to hand, more messages that didn't travel by mouth. 2 days later, a different table. Different room, same tension. A man lays a matchbook down beside an ashtray like it's a contract. Another man doesn't touch it. He slides a spoon across the table, metal on wood, like he's testing how loud it can be before someone decides it's too loud. "You want him to notice?" the first man asks. "I want him to understand," the second man says. That's the difference. Not attention, understanding. In Harlem, attention can get you killed. Understanding can keep you alive. That morning, after a night that ended with no handshakes and too many stares, someone tries to send a message the old way, through a friend of a friend, through a quiet word in the wrong ear. It comes back, bent, not refused, bent, like a bill you tried to pass that didn't pass. "Say it again," a man demands. "He said, no," the messenger answers. And the table remembers that no. That night, the backroom table becomes the center of gravity. A glass sweats a ring into the felt. A cigarette burns down untouched. One man keeps checking his watch without looking at the face. Another keeps his hands flat on the table, palms down, like he's proving he's not reaching for anything. Then the door opens, just a few inches, and someone slips in without announcing himself. He doesn't sit.
He doesn't hover. He places something on the table with a soft, deliberate tap, a folded napkin. He sets a coin on top. He withdraws his hand. No speech, no flourish, just an action that says, "This is enough." "Who brought that?" someone snaps. "It was already here," the answer comes back. The room goes still in the way a room goes still when it realizes it's being watched by someone it can't see. The napkin is small, but it takes up all the space. Every eye keeps snapping back to it like it's magnetic. 2 hours later, different faces now, same table, same napkin. Someone finally pinches the coin, lifts it, and unfolds the paper. The line is there. One sentence, no signature, no explanation, just a statement that lands like a door being locked from the outside. "Read it," a voice says, and it's not a request anymore. A man swallows, then reads it out loud. And when the words hit the air, you can feel the room tilt, like every plan they walked in with just got lighter, and every consequence just got heavier. Nobody speaks after, not immediately, because the words don't matter now. The napkin does, the table does, the fact that the message showed up without permission does. A chair finally moves back, slow, and a man stands with the napkin still in his hand, like he doesn't trust leaving it behind. He looks around at the other faces, measuring loyalty in eye contact, measuring fear in silence. Then someone at the doorway says the part that makes the air go colder. "He wants a sit-down," the man says, one hand on the doorframe. "Tonight, same table." And the way he says "same table" tells you it's not an invitation. It's a test.
That night, the sit-down doesn't start with words. It starts with placement. A backroom table again, same felt, same sweat rings from old glasses, and a single chair angled slightly away like somebody already claimed the power seat without being present. The napkin is there too, folded clean, coin on top, sitting in the center like a small white threat that refuses to fade into the background. The next morning, the city feels different in small ways. A newspaper folded open on a counter, a radio low in the corner, a man pausing in a doorway just long enough to count how many faces are inside. A table in a daytime spot, bright, public, still carries the same rule. If people stop laughing, someone important just moved a piece on the board. The napkin story travels without traveling, passed like a cigarette, hand to hand, no fingerprints, no names. 2 days later, the pressure point shows itself in a simple object, an envelope, thin, slid across a table with one finger. Not a thick payoff, not a flashy bundle, thin enough to insult. A man stares at it, then at the door, then back at the envelope, like he's watching his reputation get weighed on a scale he can't touch. The room isn't loud, it's worse than loud, quiet with witnesses. That afternoon, in a hallway with scuffed paint and bad light, a man tries to turn his shoulders sideways as he walks, like making himself smaller will make the heat pass him by. He keeps one hand near his pocket and the other empty, palms visible, because even the gesture of hidden fingers can get misread when everyone is jumpy. The message at the table is already doing work. It's making people cautious, and caution makes people sloppy. That night, another table, another back room, a different kind of crowd. Fewer laughs, more watching. Someone places a glass down too hard and the crack echoes. Someone else, across the felt, rubs a thumb along the edge of a folded napkin he brought himself, like he's testing the idea of leaving a message the same way. But the coin isn't there, the weight isn't there, and everyone can tell the difference. The next morning, a favor gets called in with a small, quiet ritual, a handwritten note passed under a cup, a nod exchanged without eye contact, a matchbook turned upside down to signal "not here." It isn't a plan explained out loud. Reportedly, in that world, you didn't explain plans, you arranged rooms. The table becomes the language: who sits, who stands, who waits by the door, who touches nothing. You need to understand, the real power isn't the loud threat, it's the silent certainty that you can reach the center of the table whenever you want. That's what the napkin proves. Not violence, access. If a message can land in the middle of the felt without permission, then every man in the room has to admit the same ugly thought. If he can place paper there, he can place anything there. That afternoon, a man with tired eyes sits at a kitchen table, plain wood, no felt, no smoke, and flips a bill over, then flips it back, then taps it twice like tapping might change the number. Family pressure doesn't need a gun to speak. It speaks through paper, through late notices, through the way a chair stays empty at dinner because someone is always out. He folds the bill and slides it under a salt shaker because even at home he can't stand leaving things exposed. That night, the sit-down room gets set like a stage. 3 glasses placed, then removed, 4 chairs aligned, then 1 pulled back, an ashtray centered, then pushed aside. Somebody checks the door twice. Somebody wipes the table once, even though it's already clean, because hands need something to do when the mind is stuck on consequences. The napkin with the coin is not in the center yet, and that absence makes the center feel like a wound. 2 hours later, a lookout angle shifts, just a body moving half a step to block the hallway view, just a shoulder turned so the doorway becomes a funnel. A man counts quietly with his eyes, 1 at the door, 1 near the wall, 2 near the table, and a 3rd chair that stays empty longer than it should. The empty chair is its own anchor detail, because it's a promise someone is coming. The next morning, the rumor hardens into something heavier than rumor. The line on the napkin wasn't just a warning, it was a claim. Not a claim shouted in the street, something colder, like a signature you don't see until the ink dries. A man folds a fresh napkin into tight squares, then stops and throws it away, because copies are dangerous, only the original matters, and everyone knows the original is coming back to the table. That night, the real room fills up. The felt table takes the center again. A coin flashes once under a low light, then disappears into a palm. A hand places the folded napkin down with a soft tap that lands harder than a fist. Nobody reaches for it right away. Eyes lock. Chairs stop moving. Even the air feels like it's waiting. And right before anyone unfolds it, right before the one line hits the room for real, someone pulls the power chair back an inch, just enough to make the scrape sound like a final warning. The scrape of that chair isn't loud, but it's loud enough. It drags 1 inch across the floor, and every man at the table hears it the same way, permission being revoked. The napkin sits dead center on the felt, pinned by the coin, untouched, like the room is afraid the paper might explode if someone unfolds it wrong. That night, the power chair finally fills, not with noise, with stillness. A man lowers into it like he's done it 100 times, knees close to the table, hands visible, posture calm. Across from him, 3 sets of eyes keep flicking to the napkin, then back to his face, then back to the napkin, like they're trying to decide which one is more dangerous. 2 hours earlier, the same napkin had been checked like a weapon, held up to light, smelled for smoke, flattened and refolded. The coin had been turned over twice, inspected like it could carry a hidden meaning on the underside. In a world like that, people don't just fear bullets, they fear certainty, and a message left at the table is certainty in paper form. Now the moment arrives with a small motion. The man in the power chair extends 2 fingers and nudges the coin just enough to make it roll a quarter turn. The coin flashes once under the low light. He doesn't pick it up. He doesn't unfold the napkin yet. He simply centers it again, perfectly square with the edges of the felt, like he's aligning the whole room. A man near the wall swallows too hard. A glass near the table stops sweating because nobody is touching it anymore. A cigarette burns down in an ashtray, forgotten. Every anchor in the room points to the same object: napkin, coin, table, silence. Then, exact action, the napkin gets unfolded. One clean motion, no tearing, no shaking, just paper opening like a door. And the line is there. One sentence, not a speech, not a rant, a single line that tells everyone the same thing at the same time. The rules have already changed, and the room is late to the update. According to accounts, the shift is immediate. A man who'd been leaning back comes forward without realizing he moved. Another man's hand, resting on the edge of the table, pulls back like the felt suddenly turned hot. Someone by the door adjusts his stance, feet wider, blocking nothing and everything at once. Nobody argues the words, because arguing would mean pretending the words are negotiable. You need to understand that's the real flex. Not raising your voice, not showing force. It's writing one line so final that grown men with reasons to be fearless suddenly start calculating exits in their heads. A beat passes, then another. Not dramatic, surgical. The napkin stays open on the felt like evidence. The coin sits beside it now, displaced by exactly an inch, like even the coin had to move out of the way to let the message breathe. The reaction isn't chaos, it's compliance wearing a straight face. One man makes eye contact with the power chair and holds it a half-second too long, trying to read if this is mercy or a trap. Another man keeps his eyes on the napkin instead, because looking at the writer would make it too real. A third man shifts a small stack of cash, just a few bills, away from his side of the table, as if money should not be visible when a different kind of currency just showed up. The consequence lands next, and it lands quiet. The room stops being shared territory, it becomes claimed territory. Not by who has the most men in the hallway, but by who can rewrite the temperature of the table with a pen. A single voice finally breaks the air, one line, tight. Fold it back. The napkin gets folded, the coin goes back on top, the message gets sealed again, not because it's over, but because everybody already received it. The table has been instructed. The next morning, the ripple shows up in small, undeniable adjustments. A man who would have walked in front now waits to be waved through. A lookout who used to stand with his hands in his pockets now keeps his palms visible. A messenger who used to carry gossip now carries nothing at all, because words are risky when paper is doing the talking. That week, the same thing keeps happening in different rooms. Tables get quieter faster, chairs get placed more carefully, people start treating the center of the felt like it's sacred ground. Reportedly, that's how you can tell who's ahead. Everyone starts acting like you're in the room, even when you're not. And the story doesn't end with blood. That's the point. The legendary moment isn't a shootout, it's a sentence, a napkin, a coin, a table, a room full of men realizing that power doesn't need to shout when it can sign its name on your silence. Because once that line was read, nobody in that circle could pretend the old rules still applied. The message didn't just change the mood, it changed the math. It turned confidence into caution. It turned a maybe into a no. It turned the table from a place where deals were debated into a place where decisions were delivered. And in a world where reputation is oxygen, Frank Lucas, reportedly, did something colder than threaten the man. He left a message at the table and made the whole room breathe different.